82 years old, and I am sitting on the edge of a bed I have shared with the same woman for 60 years. It is 3:17 in the morning. I know the time because I have been watching the clock since midnight, the way I have watched it 1,000 nights before, waiting for nothing, expecting nothing, just watching the minutes stack up like bricks in a wall neither of us had the courage to tear down. There are 2 lamps on this bed, 2 bedside lamps. Mine faces the window, hers faces the wall. They have been that way for as long as I can remember. 2 lights in the same room, casting in opposite directions, never once overlapping. And her side of the bed is empty tonight. The hospice workers made it up fresh about 6 hours ago, tucked the corners tight, smoothed the pillow. It still smells like her lavender. My side smells like stale coffee and regret. My hand is hovering over her lamp right now. I should turn it off. She is not coming back to use it, but I cannot bring myself to click that switch, because the moment I do, I admit something I have been running from for 6 decades, 60 years. Everyone called it a love story. Your grandparents, they would say. 60 years. That is real love. That is commitment. It wasn't. It was not a love story. It was an endurance test. And the only prize for winning is sitting alone in the dark, wondering where all the years went, and why not a single one of them felt like enough. Let me take you back. 1963. I was 22. She was 20. We got married in a small church on the east side of town, and there is a photograph from that day that has been sitting on the mantel downstairs for longer than some of you have been alive. 2 young people, smiling, her in white, me in a suit I borrowed from my brother because I could not afford my own. Everyone said we looked so happy. You want to know what I remember most about that photograph? Neither of us is looking at the other. We are both staring straight at the camera, performing. And I swear to you, that photograph told the truth about us before we ever had the chance to lie about it ourselves. I believed something back then that nearly every young man believes. I believe that a marriage that lasts is a marriage that works, that the measure of love is duration. You just hold on. You white-knuckle it through the hard years, and one day you come out the other side, and people hand you a cake and a card that says, "Happy 50th anniversary," and you have won. You have beaten the game. So that is what I did. I held on. We went to church dinners and smiled at the right moments. We sat across from other couples and performed our roles like actors who had memorized the script so well they forgot they were supposed to be feeling behind the words. We drove home in silence, not the comfortable kind, the kind that sits between two people like a third passenger nobody wants to acknowledge, the kind where the sound of the turn signal clicking feels louder than a scream. And I was proud of that silence. God help me, I was proud. Because my buddy Frank got divorced in 71, and my coworker Dale, his wife left him in 79. And every time another marriage fell apart around me, I would straighten up a little taller and think, not us. We are still here. We made it. Made what exactly? I will tell you what we made. We made a routine. We made a schedule. We made breakfast at 7 and dinner at 6 and small talk about the weather and the grocery list. We made sure the bills were paid and the lawn was cut and the neighbors thought everything was fine. We made everything except a connection. I am standing in my kitchen right now some nights, heating up soup in the microwave, and the house is so quiet I can hear the clock on the wall ticking from 2 rooms away. I stand there and I eat alone, and the silence is so thick it has texture. And I think about all those dinners we sat across from each other, silverware clinking against plates, not a word between us that mattered. The clock was ticking then, too. I just could not hear it over the sound of my own pride. Now here's the part that I need you to sit with. This is the part that cost me something to say out loud. 8 months ago, a Tuesday, her doctor called us into a small room at the hospital. The lights in that room were fluorescent, the kind that buzzes just loud enough to burrow into the back of your skull. The chairs were upholstered in that thin, rough fabric that hospitals use because it is easy to clean, and nobody is expected to be comfortable in a room like that anyway. It smelled like antiseptic and burnt coffee from a pot that had been sitting too long down the hallway. And the doctor told us she was terminal. I sat there and I waited for the devastation to hit me. I waited for the floor to fall out from under me, for the air to leave the room, for the world to stop the way they tell you it does when you hear news like that about the person you have spent your entire life beside. It did not stop. I felt calm, not peaceful calm, administrative calm, the kind of calm where your brain starts making lists. Call the insurance, contact her sister, look into hospice care, get the paperwork. I sat there processing the end of my wife's life the same way I would process a tax return. Methodical, organized, numb. And that is the moment that broke me. Not her diagnosis, my reaction. because I realized that somewhere along the way I had hollowed myself out so completely that the woman I had slept beside for 60 years could be dying in front of me, and the loudest thing I felt was the fluorescent light buzzing overhead. I brought her bedside lamp from home a few days later. I thought it might comfort her, something familiar in that sterile room. I set it up on the little table next to her hospital bed, and without even thinking about it, I angled it toward the wall, same as it always was. And I put mine on my side of the room, facing the window, same as it always was. 2 lamps, same room, opposite directions. One night, about 3 weeks before the end, I was sitting beside her bed. The breathing machine was doing its work, this rhythmic hissing and clicking that becomes the soundtrack of your life when someone you know is leaving it. The room was dim except for that lamp of hers, throwing its little cone of light at the wall like it had been doing for 40 years. And I leaned over. I do not know why. Something moved in me. Maybe it was the sound of that machine, reminding me that her breaths were numbered, and I had wasted most of them. I leaned in, and I tried to say it. I love you. 3 words. 3 stupid, simple words that I had said before, sure, on anniversaries, on birthdays, in cards I signed without thinking, words I had thrown around like loose change, never once stopping to check if they were true or just habitual. I got as far as I love, and she turned her head on the pillow and looked at me, and her eyes were clear, clearer than they had been in weeks. And she said 5 words that will be carved into my chest until they put me in the ground. Don't. We both know what this was. She did not say it with anger. That is the part that kills me. She was not bitter. She was not cruel. She was just honest. For the first time in 60 years, one of us was finally completely honest. And I sat back in that chair, and the breathing machine hissed, and the fluorescent light buzzed, and I looked at her lamp facing the wall, and my lamp facing the window, and 60 years collapsed into a single, unbearable truth. We had perfected the choreography of coexistence. We had mastered the art of living side by side without ever once stumbling into actual intimacy. We were 2 people who shared a mortgage, a last name, a bed, and absolutely nothing else that mattered. She is gone 3 weeks now. I still sit on my side, always my side. Her side is made up tight, untouched. Her lamp is still on, still facing the wall. I cannot turn it off, and I cannot tell you exactly why, except that turning it off would mean admitting she is really gone. And keeping it on means admitting she was never really here. Not the way she should have been. not the way I should have let her be. I opened her nightstand drawer last Tuesday. I do not know what I was looking for. Maybe proof that she had loved me once. Maybe proof that any of it had mattered. I found her reading glasses, a small bottle of hand lotion, nearly empty, and a journal. I opened it. The first page was dated 1987. One entry, one single entry in her handwriting, small and neat. The handwriting of a woman who had learned to take up as little space as possible. It said, "He didn't ask how my day was. Year 24. I turned the page. Blank. I turned another. Blank. Every page after that. Blank. She had picked up that journal to start recording her life, and we had given her so little to record that she stopped after one sentence. One sentence in 37 years. That is what I gave her. That is the size of the space I made for her in our life together. The two lamps are still glowing right now, his and hers, opposite directions, parallel lives powered by the same outlet, but never sharing the same light. And this house settles and groans at night the way old houses do, and my own breathing sounds so loud in this empty room. And I understand now. I finally understand. Now I am talking to you. You, the one watching this at 1 a.m, the one lying in bed right now next to someone whose breathing pattern you know by heart, but whose dreams you stopped asking about years ago. You, with your own two lamps, facing your own opposite walls. You think staying is the brave thing. You think endurance is love. You think that because you have not left, you have done your job. Listen to me. Staying is easy. A coward can stay. I am living proof. I stayed for 60 years. I stayed through the silence and the distance and the slow erosion of everything that once made us human to each other. Staying was never the hard part. Turning toward someone, actually turning, putting down your phone, your pride, your fear, your exhaustion, and looking at the person next to you and saying, "How are you?" and meaning it. That is the war. That is the thing that requires every ounce of bravery you have. And most of us never do it. Most of us just stay. Do not let your marriage become a museum of missed moments. Do not let your bedside become a monument to everything you were too comfortable or too scared to say. Do not sit where I am sitting at 82 years old, at 3 a.m, realizing that the woman you shared your life with died, knowing you never once shared yourself. Tonight, move your lamp. I am serious. Turn it toward theirs. Let the light overlap. Ask the question you have been swallowing for 5 years, 10 years, 30 years. Say the thing. Start the fight if you have to, because even a fight is a form of contact, and contact is what keeps two people from becoming strangers who share a bed. I am reaching over now, reaching across to her side, to her lamp, the one that has faced that wall since before some of you were born, and I am turning it slowly toward mine. And for the first time in 60 years, the light from her lamp touches the light from mine. Two pools of warm amber meeting in the middle of a bed where nobody is sleeping. It is the most beautiful and the most painful thing I have ever seen. 60 years too late.